Hello everyone, here we are, and guess what? We're doing Lamentations chapter 1. I promise you, I saw somewhere that Jeremiah had 66 books. Turns out it only had 52, which really weirds me out because it seemed like the last time when I was with you, I had chapters 53, 54, and 55 open, but maybe I had Isaiah 53 and 54 opened. I don't know, but Jeremiah is done. Lamentations is also written by Jeremiah, okay? And I was reading that what distinguished Jeremiah was his love of Israel. And it said that his love of Israel was a lot like King David's love and Moses's love. So that's what they're known for. So let's get going with Jeremiah's Lamentations. And to lament means to mourn, okay? So a lamentation would be a crying out, a moaning, a mourning, okay? So here we go. Think Jeremiah. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. How like a widow is she, who once was great among the nations. This is sort of reminding me of America. She who was queen among the provinces has now become a slave. Let's hope this isn't like America. Bitterly she weeps at night. Tears are on her cheeks. And I will tell you, there are people who feel very patriotic who are in tears over what they're seeing happen to our country. Among all her lovers, there's no one to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. Boy, that's how I feel about my family. Sorry, I've just got a comment for all of these. After affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. She dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. All who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads to Zion, mourn, for no one comes to her appointed festivals. All her gates are desolate. Her priests groan. Her young women grieve, and she is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. Her children have gone into exile, captive before the foe. All the splendor has departed from daughter Zion. Now remember, daughter Zion is Israel, and that's who he's talking about. Her princes are like deer that find no pasture. In weakness, they've fled before the pursuer. In the days of her affliction and wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers in days of old. When her people fell into enemy hands, there was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. Jerusalem has sinned greatly and so has become unclean. All who honored her despise her, for they've all seen her naked. She herself groans and turns away. Her filthiness clung to her skirts. She didn't consider her future. Her fall was astounding. There was none to comfort her. Look, Lord, on my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. The enemy laid hands on all her treasures. She saw pagan nations enter her sanctuary, those you had forbidden to enter your assembly. All her people groan as they search for bread. They barter their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. Look, Lord, and consider, for I am despised. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Look around and see. Is any suffering like my suffering that was inflicted on me, that the Lord brought on me in the day of his fierce anger? From on high he sent fire, sent it down into my bones. He spread a net for my feet and turned me back. He made me desolate, faint all the day long. My sins have been bound into a yoke by his hands. They were woven together. They've been hung on my neck, and the Lord has sapped my strength. He's given me into the hands of those I cannot withstand. The Lord has rejected, all the warriors in my midst. He summoned an army against me. To crush my young men. In his winepress, the Lord has trampled virgin daughter Judah. This is why I weep and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is near to comfort me, no one to restore my spirit. My children are destitute because the enemy has prevailed. Zion stretches out her hands, but there's no one to comfort her. The Lord has decreed for Jacob that his neighbors become his foes. Jerusalem has become an unclean thing among them. The Lord is righteous, yet I rebelled against his command. Listen, all you peoples, look on my suffering. My young men and young women have gone into exile. I called to my allies, but they betrayed me. My priests and my elders perished in the city, while they searched for food to keep themselves alive. See, Lord, how distressed I am. I'm in torment within. And in my heart I'm disturbed, for I've been most rebellious. Outside the sword bereaves. Inside there is only death. People have heard my groaning, but there's no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my distress. They rejoice at what you have done. May you bring the day you've announced so that they may become like me. Let all their wickedness come before you. Deal with them as you've dealt with me because of all my sins. My groans are many and my heart is faint. That's very sad. I pray that if America is being punished, that we would have the wisdom to know it and repent, to recognize it and repent. Lamentations 2. How the Lord has covered daughter Zion with the cloud of his anger. He's hurled down the splendor of Israel from heaven to earth. He's not remembered his footstool in the day of his anger. Without pity, the Lord has swallowed up all the dwellings of Jacob. In his wrath, he's torn down the strongholds of daughter Judah. He's brought her kingdom and its princes down to the ground in dishonor. In fierce anger, he's cut off every horn of Israel. He's withdrawn his right hand at the approach of the enemy. He is burned in Jacob like a flaming fire that consumes everything around it. Like an enemy, he's strung his bow. His right hand is ready. Like a foe, he has slain all who were pleasing to the eye. He's poured out his wrath like fire on the tent of daughter Zion. The Lord is like an enemy. He swallowed up Israel. He swallowed up all her palaces and destroyed her strongholds. He's multiplied mourning and lamentation for daughter Judah. He's laid waste his dwelling like a garden. He's destroyed his place of meeting. The Lord has made Zion forget her appointed festivals and her Sabbaths. In his fierce anger, he spurned both king and priest. The Lord has rejected his altar and abandoned his sanctuary. He's given the walls of her palaces into the hands of the enemy. They have raised a shout in the house of the Lord as on the day of an appointed festival. The Lord determined to tear down the wall around daughter Zion. He stretched out a measuring line and did not withhold his hand from destroying. He made ramparts and walls lament. Together they wasted away. Her gates have sunk into the ground. Their bars he has broken and destroyed. Her king and her princes are exiled among the nations. The law is no more. We're certainly seeing that happen. And her prophets no longer find visions from the Lord. The elders of daughter Zion sit on the ground in silence. They've sprinkled dust on their heads and put on sackcloth. The young women of Jerusalem have bowed their heads to the ground. My eyes fail from weeping. I'm in torment within. My heart is poured out on the ground. And I'll tell you, this will be me if America goes down. I will have my forehead on the ground and I will be sobbing. My heart is poured out on the ground because my people are destroyed, because children and infants faint in the streets of the city. They say to their mothers, "Where is bread and wine?" as they faint like the wounded in the streets of the city, as their lives ebb away in their mother's arms. What can I say for you? With what can I compare you, daughter Jerusalem? To what can I liken you that I may comfort you, virgin daughter Zion? Your wound is as deep as the sea. Who can heal you? The visions of your prophets were false and worthless. They did not expose your sin to ward off your captivity. The prophecies they gave you were false and misleading. All who pass your way clap their hands at you. They scoff and shake their heads at daughter Jerusalem. Is this the city that was called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All your enemies open their mouths wide against you. They scoff and gnash their teeth and say, "We've swallowed her up. This is the day we've waited for. We have lived to see it." The Lord has done what he planned. He's fulfilled his word, which he decreed long ago. He's overthrown you without pity. He's let the enemy gloat over you. He's exalted the horn of your foes. The hearts of the people cry out to the Lord. You walls of daughter Zion, let your tears flow like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief, your eyes no rest. Arise, cry out in the night. As the watches of the night begin, pour out your heart like water. In the presence of the Lord, lift up your hands to him. For the lives of your children who faint from hunger at every street corner. Look, Lord, and consider, whom have you ever treated like this? Should women eat their offspring, the children they've cared for? Cannibalism. Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? Young and old lie together in the dust of the streets. My young men and young women have fallen by the sword. You've slain them in the day of your anger. You've slaughtered them without pity. As you summoned to a feast day, so you summoned against the terrors. Summoned against me terrors on every side. In the day of the Lord's anger, no one escaped or survived. Those I cared for and reared, my enemy has destroyed. That's how I feel about my daughters. The enemy has captured my daughters. Okay, Lamentations 3. Boy, this is a different spirit from all of the anger the Lord was pouring forth to Jerusalem in the previous chapters that we read. This is when it's all over and the dust is settling. This is the sadness. Lamentations 3. I'm the man who's seen affliction by the rod of the Lord's wrath. He's driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he's turned his hand against me again and again all day long. He's made my skin and my flesh grow old and has broken my bones. He's besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. He's made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. He's walled me in so I cannot escape. He's weighed me down with chains. Even when I call out or cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He's barred my way with blocks of stone. He's made my paths crooked. Like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding, he dragged me from the path and mangled me and left me without help. He drew his bow and made me the target for his arrows. He pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughing stock of all my people. They mock me in song all day long. He's filled me with bitter herbs and given me gall to drink. He's broken my teeth with gravel. He's trampled me in the dust. I've been deprived of peace. I've forgotten what prosperity is. So I say my splendor is gone and all that I hoped for from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. That's a very famous scripture. Think about that. His compassions never fail. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Every day's a new day, people. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him. And that's what we're doing, folks. We're waiting for the Lord with bowed heads in prayer, okay? We're waiting for the Lord to step into our situation. We are suffering in silence and in peace, okay? Therefore, I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It's good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It's good for a man to bear the yoke while he's young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Let him bury his face in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him offer his cheek to the one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. For no one is cast off by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love. For he does not willingly bring affliction or grief to anyone, to crush underfoot all prisoners in the land, to deny people their rights before the Most High, to deprive them of justice. Would not the Lord see such things? Who can speak and have it happen if the Lord has not decreed it? Is it not from the mouth of the Most High that both calamities and good things come? Why should the living complain when punished for their sins? Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Let us lift up our hearts and our hands to God in heaven and say, we've sinned and rebelled, and you have not forgiven. You've covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You've slain without pity. You've covered yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can get through. You've made us scum and refuse among the nations. All our enemies have opened their mouths wide against us. We've suffered terror and pitfalls, ruin and destruction. Streams of tears flow from my eyes because my people are destroyed. My eyes will flow unceasingly without relief until the Lord looks down from heaven and sees. What I see brings grief to my soul because of all the women of my city. Those who were my enemies without cause hunted me like a bird. They tried to end my life in a pit and threw stones at me. The waters closed over my head, and I thought I was about to perish. I called on your name, Lord, from the depths of the pit. Remember when he was down in the mud pit in the cistern? You heard my plea. Do not close your ears to my cry for relief. You came near when I called you, and you said, do not fear. You, Lord, took up my case. You redeemed my life. Lord, you have seen the wrong done to me. Uphold my cause. You've seen the depth of their vengeance, all their plots against me. Lord, you've heard their insults, all their plots against me. What my enemies whisper and mutter against me all day long. Look at them, sitting or standing. They mock me in their songs. Pay them back what they deserve, Lord, for what their hands have done. Put a veil over their hearts, and may your curse be on them. Pursue them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of the Lord. You know, it's interesting because that's the end of that, but it says here, this chapter is an acrostic poem. The verses of each stanza begin with the successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and the verses within each stanza begin with the same letter. Neat. I love you very much. I will see you tomorrow. We'll pick it up with Lamentations 4. I have no idea How many chapters are in Lamentations? I'll look that up, and hopefully I'll get the right answer this time. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. You have a wonderful evening, and remember the Lord. Right now we're in a time of suffering in this country. Just put your head down and pray and learn to suffer, okay? And learn to suffer patiently, all right? Learn to suffer patiently and wait on the Lord. He will step in at the perfect moment. It may start to look a lot worse out there. Don't panic. Keep your head down. I know that you suffer for what you see. Just wait on the Lord, okay? It's called suffering with grace. It's called suffering patiently. It's doing what Jesus did, okay? I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.